Thank you for auditing the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who's just getting back from Toronto. I just went there to see the new Travis Scott concert, Circus Maximus, in support of Utopia, and I'm going to do a review. I'm a little bit under rested, like my shirt's inside out. I haven't showered. I smell like a circus, but I wanted to give this sort of meditation on what I just saw with this concert. Because, you know, when I did my review of Utopia, which I ultimately put as my third best album of the year overall, not just in the rap category, but I was sort of struggling with this idea of Travis Scott as being what I called Kirkland Kanye, you know, Costco Kanye, sort of off-brand Kanye, and then saying, well, first of all, that's not fair, and it's not entirely true, but even if it were true, is that so bad? I mean, Kanye is so, or was, so great, and such an amazing force that even someone who is a knockoff of him, if it is well done, is great art in and of itself, right? A wonderful Salieri to Mozart. And the reason why I bring up Kanye now is it's just chance. You know, I saw that Travis Scott was coming to Toronto. And even though I didn't listen to a lot of new music 10 years ago, I was listening to Yeezus. That was like my favorite album of that year, or it was one of the favorites. And I've wanted to do a Yeezus like retrospective this whole year, but I'm uncomfortable talking about Bruno, talking about Kanye. I'm having a rough time. Well, I have a rough time talking about Ye. I'm okay talking about Kanye, but in general, I try not to do it because it just feels exploitative. I know he's coming out with a new album, and I'll probably review that. But still, in general, I didn't want to just like take up some random reason to talk about his music, so I haven't been. But this was too good of a coincidence. Because you see, I just saw Travis Scott in Toronto at the Scotiabank Arena in downtown Toronto in section 106. And exactly 10 years and 1 week before, in 2013, on December 20th, I saw Kanye West perform at the Scotiabank Arena. It might have been called something different back then. But there's way too many banks in Toronto. Jesus Christ. Take it easy with the banks. I saw the exact same section 10 years, 1 week before. Okay? So I feel like it's wild because very clearly Travis Scott is trying to do a lot of what Kanye did with the Yeezus tour. There's a lot of similarities, but statistically speaking, a lot of you are too young to have gone to the Yeezus concert. One of the best concerts I've ever seen in my entire life. I was in the middle of going through a divorce. It was a rough time, and it was exactly the concert that I needed to see at that exact moment. So I'm going to do a comparison. I'm going to say it's verses, but I'm not going to like declare a winner, you know, because it's, first of all, it's not fair, because when I went to go see Kanye, I knew every single lyric he had ever spit, okay? With the exception of his second and third albums. I don't like those albums that much. But beyond that, I mean, just his second album, actually. No, I knew his third one really well. Just the second one. So I knew all the words, and I loved Kanye, and I'd listened to him for years. Whereas with Travis Scott, I really enjoyed Utopia. I just reviewed Astro World 2 days ago. But realistically, I'm not like a real fan. To me, he will always be the guy from the Reese's Pieces box and the SpongeBob guy. Remember when he was on the Super Bowl? That was him, right? And SpongeBob was on there with him. I remember goofing on it and laughing at it and going in and telling my students, you know, like, oh, that's really goofy. And I remember this one guy, I believe it was Brett. He was like, no, you can't. You have no idea how good Travis Scott is in concert. He gives the most. He is the best performer that there's ever been. It's like the SpongeBob guy. So that's my pre-experience. Having pretty high expectations. Of course, I was there in line. I could have got us floor seats, but given what happened in Houston, as a dad, I didn't feel it was responsible to put my kids in a Travis Scott pit. I know that's goofy, but dads are going to dad. And plus, it was neat that the same section was open. So I'm going to break it down by all these categories, okay? I'm going to compare Yeezus tour to the Circus Maximus tour, to the Utopia tour. Each of these little elements I'm going to break down, and it'll be fun. You know, it'll be sort of like a retroactive review of the Yeezus tour and a like right now review of the Utopia tour. First of all, the getting in experience. It's fine. The Toronto, if you've never been to the Social Bank, it's kind of weird. There's all these like weird underpasses that you have to get to. And it was raining. I don't remember much of when I went. So when I went 10 years ago, I was solo dolo, just by myself, driving up over the border, the 3 hours it takes to get from the Rochester area to Toronto. I must have parked somewhere. I must have walked there. I don't remember. This time it was weird because right as we were like walking get into a line, there was a guy who was like sitting behind a pane of glass, so he looked almost like a zoo animal. He looked sort of like Canadian comedian Dave Thomas, okay? If you've ever seen Strange Brew. He looked like that guy. Except he was bald, he was screaming at the top of his lungs, and he was holding onto a crack pipe. All right, so I was like, whoo, I am getting ready here. Canadian crackheads, here we come. You know, like, I am really getting ready to rage, you know? And we like end up getting into a line. It's like a VIP line. We get to a different line, a whole thing. It was fine. It's a fine venue to get into. But the crowd itself is interesting because, you know, I remember, I mean, first of all, I was the oldest person in this stadium, no question. I mean, usually when I go to a show, there's a couple other older dudes like me. Just no. You know, this is a very young, very male, not exclusively, but very young, very male. I would say the vibe that you get from a Travis Scott show is a very adolescent vibe, like a first-person shooter vibe. You know, like that kind of, and that sounds like I'm criticizing it. I'm not. I'm just saying that's the kind of vibe. Whereas with the Kanye show, there's a lot more of a mix back then. You know, we are the same age, Kanye and I, so at that point, that's 10 years ago, I didn't feel as old as I did at this show. There was no particularly notable people at the Kanye show. Usually when I go to a concert, I try to tell stories because it's fun, you know, like you can go along with me. So we had 3 seats together, right on the aisle, and like, there was like this one kid who was sitting in one of our seats, and I asked him to move, and he's like, getting all squirrely. And then it just like sits in the aisle, which you know that if you ever go to a concert, you're never going to sit in the aisle. You're never going to sit in the aisle. So the security guy comes up and kicks him out, and he's looking like, huh, and then he goes away. And then we go to get merch, and we come back, and like the show starts, and this guy comes back, and he goes into our row. And I don't know what he was thinking. I guess he thought he would just squeeze in without a seat. But what that meant was I was on the aisle, so that pushed me out into the aisle. So I'm trying to rage. I don't care. I'm a man in my 40s. I try to rage. Travis Scott asked me to throw 2 fingers up. I throw 3 fingers up just to show him how hardcore I am, okay? See, things I've been doing dad dances since I was like 15, okay? Like when I dance at a concert, I've looked like a dad forever, so it doesn't matter. But I can't because I'm in the aisle and there's this little half step and I'm like in between. I'm going. So finally I just go full dad. I asked to switch positions with my son. I went with both my teenagers. And I just go like this, in front of the seat, telling him, you got to move over. So I don't know what happened. So that's my one little experience there. I'm sorry you didn't get to sit together. What more can I tell you? Before I even get to the show, you know, we can talk about the merch. You can see the posters back there. Let's do a little comp of the merch. Oh, as far as the crowd goes, Travis Scott wins. He wins just because the energy was nuts. Absolutely freaking nuts. All the way through. It's exactly what I wanted. Good job, Travis Scott. Now, as far as merch goes, it's hard to compare because Yeezus merch set the bar for so many other merch tables. I mean, he put out some of the ugliest, weirdest merch you could possibly imagine. I remember walking up and seeing it and thinking, who wants like an Indian headdress with a fake Metallica font? Oh, they're sold out, you know? And that kind of weird mishmash of fonts, mishmash of intentionally bad-looking, janky imagery, that's like the thing. And that was all over Travis's merch. I mean, look at this poster there. I bought that poster. I showed it to my wife, and she said, I hope that's the last time I ever see it. I mean, this is George Kondo, the same artist who did the cover of My Dark Twisted Fantasy. Like, he's even taking artists who have worked with Kanye, even the same image of, like, you know, nudity and white women and sexuality and hot dogs. You know, it's all kind of there. My daughter wanted a shirt, so she got this. It's pretty sweet merch right there. Reminds me heavily of the Heavy Heavy album cover by Young Fathers. You know, it's got kind of I know one of the better songs off that new album, Utopia, all there. But Kanye's going to win because he invented that ugly style, as far as I can tell. And I didn't get any shirts or anything, but there was one piece of merch that I saw at the Kanye stand that I knew was going to be absolutely necessary, a trademark item. This one, of course, Yeezus Tour, right? Who can forget... Oh, I'm sorry, I'm showing you the wrong side. Who can forget his choice to make this bag? Sometimes I'll put this up behind me in a Kanye video and people will be like, bro, are you supporting the Confederacy? I don't support the Confederacy. If I knew where Jefferson Davis was buried, I'd pee on his grave. But this was Kanye merch. I guess he told us all along. I don't know. So that's definitely going to go to Kanye as far as the merch battle goes. Also, it's so expensive. But let's talk about the set, because the thing... So I knew that Travis Scott was going to be high energy, but I didn't know what else he had to be. And when I think about the set of the Yeezus Tour, the set of the Yeezus Tour is so memorable. That, you know, like back in 2013, I wasn't going to concerts. I was an old man. I was much older when I was younger. You know, when I was 36 versus 46, I was 20 years older when I was 10 years younger. Seriously. So like the gigantic iceberg that comes out in that, it was just like so monumental and fascinating and cool, and these like little video screens that would turn, but it was really that iceberg that set the tone and gave you the idea that rap artists were realizing you can't just sit there and rhyme over a CD of your own album and have three guys in the background going like this with a t-shirt, okay? Which is what most rap concerts were up until that point. But Travis Scott did something really cool. He put, like, it looked almost like Mesoamerican ruins. It looked like the bottom of an aquarium tank. It looked like a weird sculpture made by aliens who worshipped the kid from Diary of a Wimpy Kid. It was this very, very, very cool rock structures with these bizarre cartoon faces and octopuses, and it had different levels, and it was in different points of, so it was on across the entire pit, so that wherever you were in the stadium, you would get to be closer to Travis Scott than the other people at different times. It was a great way to do something that was basically in the round, even though it was largely linear. And it was multiple different levels, so he got to run up the stairs and jump down the stairs. And the other thing that he did is, instead of having music before the show, he put crickets, straight up crickets, like chirp, chirp. So the whole atmosphere was so calm before Travis Scott show. You know, you're thinking rage, rage, but no, it was chill because you're just looking at this cool thing and you're just like, crickets, crickets, it's just cool crickets. So who had a better set? You know, I think I'm going to go with Travis on this. Even though I think he was building on what Kanye did, I think Travis gets the point because it really helped the whole show work. I mean, at certain times, like the heads would lift, like there'd be heads that would come out of the rafters and people would ride on them. We'll talk about that later. You know, the rafter, like certain parts of the set would rise up. Certain, like there's this weird face with like this weird kid with like these lasers coming out of his eyeballs. A lot of really cool stuff is happening, and it led to a much more dynamic show. Despite Kanye's innovations, it still felt largely like a dude performing facing one direction. Whereas the style that Travis Scott put forth is just way more dynamic. See, what's my next category here? So we got getting in experience, crowd merch, the set. Oh, fashion and hiding self. Travis Scott didn't try very hard to hide himself. In the beginning, it was cool because the concert started and he was wearing sunglasses, and the video screen that showed him was intentionally blurry, so it was very unclear who he was. But Kanye, my man, as my dad once called him, your man Cornell. he got Famous Wests mixed up. But my man Kanye, 2013, my man Kanye, like, he wore this mask of chainmail over his face And he did it for so long that you really were thinking, this might not be him. This might be pranked. I might be pranked, you know? Really, it was so long holding on to that, and that built up way more dynamism. So I'm gonna give. I think it was a Balenciaga thing too, but it was before Balenciaga. Before Kanye told me who Balenciaga was, I think that was Balenciaga. Although I think he now hates Balenciaga now. So what are you gonna do? So I'm gonna give that to Kanye because as far as building up that kind of suspense. Now, as far as the video screen goes. Kanye's video screen was not particularly memorable. Travis Scott used it as well as I've ever seen it used because it was a round screen and it would be broken up with little, like there'd be different video effects each time happening live and applied live. Like there's this one beautiful time during the song Meltdown where there's this like melting effect happening on the screen, and then they had a lot of pyrotechnics as well. Like these like sparks falling down from that screen, so it actually looked like it was melting fire down onto the stage. It was very cool. And the pyrotechnics, speaking of the screen, they were just fun. So yeah, I'm going to give that to Travis as well. Now, as far as the opening acts go, okay, so remember how I said I didn't know much about music in 2013? If you can't read that back there, it says Kanye West's first solo tour in 5 years. With Kendrick Lamar. So 10 years ago, I was like, well, I'm going to go see a concert. I don't see concerts very often. I might as well look up this Kendrick person. I wonder what his real name is. I literally got on LimeWire and downloaded whatever songs I could find. I had no idea of his hits. It was after a Good Kid, Mad City. So, you know, Backseat Freestyle I loved, and Swimming Pools and all that. And I listened to like, I don't know, maybe 10 songs a lot the week leading up to the show. The thing about it was like, I remember thinking a couple of things. One, I was shocked at how small he seemed. So I don't even know if he's not a tall person, but he just seemed very small on stage. And I remember being completely blown away by how invested the audience was in his music. That's what made me go, you know, I'm going to pay attention to this guy. Whenever he comes out with another album, I'm going to buy it. It ended up being To Pimp a Butterfly. So whoever it is that's coming up as the opening act for Travis Scott, I got bad news for you. You're going against Kendrick. It's Tizo Touchdown, who I didn't review his album because he reminds me too much of Martin Sheffield Lickley, if you're a Comedy Bang Bang fan. But he really was a fascinating opener. And we listened to his stuff driving up to Toronto. He has a lot of good songs. He has this one good song where he says "wee" in it. He has an interesting perspective, and then when he performs, he's straight up glam. Like he's wearing sequined pants. He has a microphone that's covered in fake flowers. He basically bedazzled the microphone stand, and he waves it around almost like in a Freddie Mercury style, and he's like singing and rapping. He's the kind of guy where I bet if you could see Tizo Touchdown in concert, like with a band behind him where he's the star, it would be absolutely amazing. Unfortunately, he wasn't the star, and he spent way too much time telling you who he was and also telling you what albums he was on. And he made it seem sort of like the people who he was talking about were going to come up and join him, even though they weren't. So yeah, I'm going to have to give it to Kendrick, but I'm very excited because Tizo Touchdown appears to be another one of these rap artists who is helping to destroy the genre of rap, redefine what it means, sing and rap and be glam and macho and everything all together. Like just like all these stereotypes. Let's be honest. All these stereotypes, especially stereotypes of black masculinity that we've held on to as a culture and applied to rap music. They're just going away. And I guess you can complain about it, but maybe it's better if we have human beings making art and not archetypes. Okay. Oh boy, I got super sky on that one. If you're liking this video, smash the like bucket. You can put AVAA. It stands for awesome video as always. And I will give that comment a heart as I always do. You notice how I'm on this side so you can see both art things. I'm afraid that the light is too intense. So I think I'm actually just going to move over this way. What's going on in my eyes? My eyes are like, meow. I look like the laser kid. It was freaky, man. I hate lasers. Okay, and subscribe if you haven't already. So there's the opening acts, but let's actually talk about them, about Kanye West and Travis Scott. Energy. Kanye West had very good energy. I remember being surprised how energetic he was, how much he moved around. But legitimately, like, you cannot, if it is possible for you to see Travis Scott in concert, you just have to do it. He is so amazing on stage. I mean, he wears football pads, but like, remember how I said Kendrick Lamar seemed oddly small? Like, I seriously, I was asking my son, I was like, is Travis Scott like 7 feet tall? Like, he just seems so much larger than life. He commands presence so well. He's constantly jumping and like moving and just so much passion and energy. And he just puts it all out there. It's totally infectious. It doesn't matter. I could have hated the music and I would have loved the show. So as far as energy and presence goes, that has to go to Travis Scott, because it just doesn't matter. It doesn't, like, seriously, he could be up there singing Row, Row, Row Your Boat. And if he just has that energy to it, you would just be sitting there and you would be raging. And that's the thing I've been asking all the time. Like, how do people rage to Travis Scott's music? It's so quiet. It's so calm. Well, here's how you do it. You crank up the bass so loud that it shakes the fillings out the back of your mouth. And then you just have Travis Scott singing along to it, and then you vibe off of that. It's really quite amazing. As far as crowd work goes, Travis Scott did a lot of crowd work. Too much of crowd work. He kept on bringing people out of the stands. I don't think it was organic, because like, they must have had to sign waivers and they seemed to know what they were doing. And like, it took way too long and it wasn't engaging. I'll talk more about that in a second. He did, though, okay. Musicians, okay? This is what you do when you're trying to kiss an ass of 60,000 people. If you're trying to kiss 60,000 people's ass at the same time, don't say, "This is the best show of the tour." Say what Travis Scott did. For real, this might be a top 5 venue on the tour. That way, no one's mad. They're not going to check your math. That makes you feel good. Top 5? Really? And Kanye didn't care about Toronto. I mean, Kanye was just there to perform. People standing around on stage, that's another category. You thought that wasn't a category? People standing around on stage? That one's also going to go to Kanye. Kanye had so many people just standing around, just wearing like white muslin. I don't even know what they were wearing, with their faces obscured, just standing there. It seems like Travis Scott wanted to do what Kanye did, but didn't really know how to do it. So for the song Circus Maximus, he got 3 people dressed up in like budget gorilla suits, like walking around slowly. So I imagine I'm probably pissing off Travis Scott fans because I keep sort of clowning on him for being an imitator of Kanye. And I would like to have it both ways. If you'd let me have it both ways. Can I both admire him for being such a great artist who does things that Kanye cannot do, while also clown on him for trying to do Kanye things not as well as Kanye does them? If I could, I would like to have that cake and eat it as well. That would just be awesome. Because that's how I feel. Like when I see the 3, it's like I sort of get it, like I sort of get what he's doing, but it really feels like he went into Kanye's hotel room and Kanye left a notepad from the hotel, like the weird Hotel Victoria where I stayed, where that you can't turn off the TV. What the hell? And like he sees like a little note that just says 3 gorillas, and he's like, "Oh, Kanye wrote 3 gorillas on a notepad. I gotta put this in my show." Okay, as far as the first song goes, this is where we're really getting into the music bit. They both opened with the first track off of the album they were supporting, which of course they're going to get it hyped, which means I have, and this is truly a pleasure, the ability, the platform to discuss seeing Hyena or On Sight. I remember when On Sight came on, 60,000 people saying every single freaking word. I don't know how many people Scotiabank takes. I don't know. I think it's 60. Maybe it's 50. Maybe it's 40. Maybe it's 30. I don't know. You can tell me in the comments. It feels like 60. It's probably 40. It's like all knowing it, and he's got the face thing on, and he's dancing a lot, like a surprising amount for what was then a 36-year-old dude who professes to skip leg day quite often. I doubt Travis skips leg day. Versus Hyena, which is just that great opening situation, a weird sort of video montage with like pictures of Africa and stuff. And then the beat comes in, and he is jumping and slamming. And the great thing is the opener, Tizo Touchdown, he was only in one little section of the stage because, you know, you can't have the opener have the full reign. So when Travis comes out and he's using the whole thing and he's running all around, this is where I'm happiest to tell you this is a complete tie. This moment, like, if I could die and go to heaven and all you can do in heaven is relive moments, I would relive these moments back to back just to feel them again, just to feel 2013 Kanye saying, how much do I not give up, you know, and then lead it to Hyena, you know, what you know about it, like just living those moments back to back. I'm giving myself goosebumps, and it's my own stupid idea, but that's how much fun these concerts were to see in person. As far as memorable moments, kind of goofy memorable moments, there's a long break in the middle of Travis Scott's thing, and I read on the setlist.fm that that's to change his outfit, and he just came out in a different t-shirt. It's like, why did you take 10 minutes to do that? As far as other memorable moments with Kanye, well, definitely having Jesus come up on stage. That was one of the goofy, like, I may be laughing at Travis for having 3 gorillas on stage, but Kanye having a Jesus come out to bless him in the middle. Now look at the next category. Drakeness. In 2013, December 20th, Scotiabank Arena, whatever it was called, TD Bank, RBC Bank, Bank Canada, Bank of Montreal, Newfoundland Financial Concern, whatever it was named after then. Air Canada Centre. I think it was the Air Canada Centre in 2013. Correct me if I'm wrong, Canucks. Wait, can I say Canucks? Is Canucks a slur? If it, you can call me a Yankee if you want to call me. Anyway, you correct me if I'm wrong. Friends to the north. Drake didn't go on stage, but he was in the stadium. And at a certain point in the middle of the show, Kanye said, there's a young artist who's coming up out of the Toronto. I don't even think anyone called it the Six at that point. And there he is. And they shined a light on him. And I was sitting there and I remember thinking, who's that? Who's this guy? I'd never heard of him. I'd never heard of Drake back then. Whereas, by comparison, if you see a concert in Toronto, you are always expecting Drake to show up. Now, I know he lives in Calabasas. You know he lives in Calabasas. Travis Scott knows he lives in Calabasas. The kids next to me with the guy who's in the seat that's actually my seat, but it's just trying to pretend like it's not, they know that Drake lives in LA, in Calabasas. But you still think he's coming out. You still think. When you hear Sicko Mode, you still think. Actually, during the song with the guys walking around in the gorilla costumes, I think all 40,000 people in that stadium thought, is Drake going to pull the head off and like take over? Like, is that what's going to happen? Is there going to be like a super surprise Drake thing? You know, I like... Even Tizo Touchdown said, I did a song for Drake. And my son was like, there's no way, is there? I'm like, I don't think so. And I remember right before the show started, those kids next to me were like, do you think Drake's going to show up? So, you know, there's Goosebumps, right? That's with Drake too. Is that a song with Drake? My son told me it was. You know, you got Sicko Mode, and then you got Meltdown. And it's like, you just keep waiting for it. Now, this is the positive side, though. Like there's so much Drake merch in the Scotiabank Arena. But there's so many people. I saw someone wearing, I swear to God, this is going to sound like I'm making fun of Canadians for being provincial because of the existence of this article of clothing, but I didn't make it up. It's a Toronto Maple Leafs hockey jersey with an OVO Drake branded logo on it. I can't make it up. I saw it with my own eyes. Anyways, the cool thing is the whole crowd just took over for every single line Drake ever said. They just took it over. So it ended up being that, the six was there. That Drake was there in the personage of the audience. So that was really fun. And also I goof around a lot on scared of the six. And so it's very funny to be in the six and to be shouting that line with everyone else. Scared of the six. And if you hear my voice, it's hoarse. It's hoarse like Mr. Ed because I was screaming the whole time. Because I am, as you can probably tell, a rager. As far as lowlights go, there weren't really many lowlights with the Kanye show, except I will say this. I went to go see the same show in Albany a couple weeks later, and it was ass. It was so bad. And then I went to go see the Life of Pablo tour in Buffalo, and it was so bad I left early. All right? I am going to go out on a limb and say, for as long as Travis Scott is performing, he is going to be, as you kids say, Lataf. Okay? L-I-T-A-F. Okay? He is going to be Lataf for his entire life. There's no way he's going to put out. So the only lowlights really was the part where he invites people to come up. So he invites people to come up and stand in this little head, this like head that moves around the audience. And there's one time where there are these two, what must have been Instagram models. And they were filming themselves. Boomer moment coming up here. Just, if I had visuals, it'd say, boomer. Okay. They were picked out of the crowd to participate in the concert. They filmed themselves the entire time with their cameras, the proper angle. The whole time. So they inverted the whole damn thing. They weren't a part of the show that we were watching. We were a part of the show that they were making. And that's the problem with young people these days and TikTok. TikTok problems with people attention span TikTok. Anyways, that was a low light. As far as highlights go, there were so many highlights in the Donda show. The Yeezus show. The Runaway. I mean, just having Kanye with his mask and the full Balenciaga trench coat standing underneath a spotlight with the sampler doing look at you. Again, I'm getting goosebumps again, okay? Hey, Goosebumps, that's a Travis Scott song I just learned. So I'm getting sicko moded on my arms. Like, it was so awesome. And I know that's like one of his greatest hits. And that's where the part where he rambles and goes on rants. I don't care about the rants, they're fine. But just the part in the beginning where you feel like Kanye's there, but at the same time you're with him. You're with him in Chicago trying to work with no ID. You're with him trying to figure out how to produce, how to make dope sounds, how to be a dope artist. Like, even though you're surrounded, you're, as Baudelaire would say, you're bathing in the multitude. Even though you're bathing in the multitude, because he's just sitting there by himself, because he's sitting there with this music that he made, like, you are connected with him, and it's this amazing thing. And Monster was amazing because he had this weird little like leotarded monster character climbing around on that iceberg, like going after him. Power the same way. Any song off of Yeezus, I remember thinking, just so you know what it's like to be a longtime fan of Kanye West. I remember thinking that Yeezus is such a crazy ass album that's coming from such a raw and dark place. I was 100% certain he would not live another year. I thought, this is it. We're going to hear this album in a year after he's dead, and we're going to say, well, he told us what trouble he was in, and we just couldn't help him. Thank God he's not dead, physically. As far as Travis Scott goes, because I don't know his music as well as other people do, it was kind of a cool thing because, I mean, really the highlight was just the energy the whole way through, but especially at the start. I mean, I felt like I was floating. He was just so into it. But by far, oh, and I know the song I know turned into like a yelling song where like everyone in the audience was like, I know. It turned into like a soccer chant. It was very funny. But the absolute highlight, probably the highlight, if I had to choose one moment to relive in my little heaven situation, it might be Runaway or it might be the performance of the song Fiend. So Fiend, if you don't know it, is a song by Travis Scott featuring Playboi Carti. Playboi. That's his new name, by the way. He changed his name to Playboi. Playboi Carti. That's spelled P-L-U-E-E-Y B-O-Y-Y. Playboi Carti. And it sounds like a Playboi Carti song. Playboi Carti song. And it has these synthesizers. And then there's a verse, and I don't know. I mean, I sort of know all the words to the verse, but it doesn't really matter because the verse just leads up to this part where they scream the word fiend, but they just say fiend, F-E, inverted exclamation point N, and they do it to this rhythm. Fiend, 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 fiend. And when he performed it, and the fire goes off with each fiend, 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 and the whole audience is raging, and you look up at the rafters, if you're in section 106, which is a very good section, you look up in the rafters, and in the rafters there's people, fiend, fiend, and you look down in the pit, and there's people, fiend, fiend, and then he stops, and you're bummed. And then he turns on the light, and he says, we're going to focus on those 4 guys with their shirts off. And they play it again. And you're thinking, is he just playing the same song again? Whatever. Okay, we're going through the verse. That's cool. Fiend, fiend, fiend. Why does my throat hurt? Because fiend, fiend, fiend. It's so funny because once he did that, every single dude in the entire stadium took their shirt off. Like we all wanted to be the next person who's featured. And then he goes to a different part of the stadium and focuses on someone else. Fiend, fiend, fiend. And then he does it again and again and again. And I didn't want it to stop. He then went into Sicko Mode, which I guess is his biggest song. Who cares? I would absolutely have gone to all the effort of getting a hotel room, getting a parking spot, walking to the stadium, dealing with those weird kids, doing all that stuff just to see Fiend. I didn't want Sicko Mode. I wanted Fiend to go on forever. In that moment, despite the fact I'm a 46-year-old father of 3, okay? 1 baby and 2 teenagers. One of them's in college. Despite the fact I have a full-time job and a retirement plan, okay? I got a kick-ass retirement plan, thanks to the state of New York, okay? I got all these things going for me. I'm a bourgeois pig, but when Fiend comes on, you think I'm not back at the channel in Boston watching Sam Black Church? I'm not at some hardcore show. I'm at some hardcore show. I don't care. My knees don't hurt anymore. My back doesn't hurt anymore. My throat doesn't hurt anymore. I'm not tired anymore. I am Fiend. Oh my God, it was awesome. Whew. Seriously. Again, with the goosebumps. So that's my review. I don't know who had the better highlights. Like I said, this isn't really a question of which one's better. I mean, I think if I had to say, if I could only have chosen to see one, I would have chosen to see Yeezus, just because I know the art better. I know the artist better. It was sort of more important. It was more influential. But I'm really happy because I finally fully get the SpongeBob guy. I understand who the SpongeBob guy is now. I understand what Brett meant when he said you have to see Travis Scott live. If Travis Scott comes back, I'm going to see him again. I am going to hopefully relive the Fiend forever. All right. Did you see the Yeezus tour? Have you seen the Circus Maximus tour? Tell me in the comments what you thought. Why is that poster way more better displayed than those other 2 up there? I don't know. Why doesn't Kafka eat a hot dog? Until next time, there's the camera.